Good morning, everybody. It's Mr. X Stitch here. It's another daily vlog. It seems to be. I take the dog to the one little field that's just near the houses we live, so that he can do his business, and it's a good opportunity for me to get my vlog on. I was pleased with the responses from yesterday, particularly Captain, that you were thrilled by it all. That whole story about your back, like Michelle Bendy Stitchy also asked me about, what you should do about the back of your work. And the thing is I hate when people get hung up on that before they've even started, that whole story about how the back of your work should be nice and tidy and stuff, because it's just one of those things. Like when you're starting cross stitch, the thing is cross stitch is so simple, and yet it's amazing how people can get themselves so wound up about it that they kind of get in a bit of a tiz. And I've seen grown men cry. I haven't seen grown men cry. I've seen grown men get a bit stressed out about the seeming complexity of it. And I'm like, no, honestly, it's really simple. Just kind of stick with it and you'll be fine. But that whole what the back of your work should look like is another one of those kind of stories that just gets people in the way of people being able to get going with it and just enjoying it and stuff. So really, if you're beginning, don't give a shit what the back of your work looks like, because you can iron it, hammer it, stick it in a frame, glue that frame shut so that nobody will ever see it again. I think that as time progresses, any of us that do anything, we refine our practice, we get better and stuff. So you will want to start to avoid making those mistakes that lead to unnecessary knots. And it sucks when you find that there's a knot that you missed 35 stitches beforehand. It sucks when you're doing a design and you've miscounted. I did this design once for a tattoo parlor, and it said something like, good work ain't cheap and cheap work ain't good. And it had this border that went all the way around it, and I stitched all of it, and when it got to the last corner, those two bits did not join up, and I could not work out for the life of me how, because I was following this pattern, and that kind of stuff sucks, but you just have to roll with it. But when it comes to the back of the work, I think that thing of every time you do a stitch, you put a half twist in the thread, and so that can lead to the thread getting a bit squirrely, so you learn to kind of let the thread drop every now and again and it'll unspool itself. They were just little things. I think over time, the more you gain that tactile interactivity with it, I think those moments when you can get to understand you've got more communication with the materials than you had when you're first starting out, and they're just alien things. It's also interesting, a while ago I switched to using gold plated needles, and those again, they feel different when you use them. They grip the thread slightly more, and it's an imperceptible difference, but you know that it's there, and the way that they puncture and run through the fabric and stuff, it's hard to explain, but once you've gone gold, it's quite hard to go back. And I always have a little stash of gold, and I usually get them from Jane Greenoff, who I interviewed in a video. But yeah, so I always keep those with me, and then I'll get them out if I ever do the workship. I get them out and be like, so these are gold, but I'm gangster, so what can you do about it? No gold for you newbies and stuff like that. But it's almost like that's the finest quality of that, and it just gives you that better interaction with the materials and stuff. And so I feel over time, I don't when I'm doing stitching, I don't really get too obsessed with the way the back should look. Some people are very meticulous about their stitching on the back, and they always travel through the work in the same directions. And, if you're doing a big batch of blocks, you will ultimately end up doing the same stitches in the same directions as you work your way down. But when you're confettiing all over the place and stuff, rarely am I going to be that bothered that I want to make it really tidy. There are occasions, if you're doing lots of little bits of confetti where I might, in between the two gaps of pieces, I might thread my thread underneath some of the existing stitches just to keep it nice and neat. But like I say, I haven't done any stitching for quite a while, so when I do it, I'm not going to get too hung up on the quality of the back of the work, because I don't anticipate it being put in a museum anytime soon or anything. But eventually, when I do get to doing that level of work, when the kids are at school and I've retired and I live on a yacht, then maybe I'll take a bit more time. But as I said previously, for me, if I get the time to put into some professional practice in terms of needlework, I would really love to learn Japanese embroidery, because that stuff is hardcore. And I've always maintained that for some people, if they don't appreciate the content of your work, if you do something that's political, controversial, rude, whatever, they can criticize the form of your work by going, oh, it's just cross stitch and stuff like that. Whereas with Japanese embroidery, because it is perfect, then there's no room for them to criticize that. They will have to criticize the content. So if I want to do a piece that is absolutely beautiful and tells you to go forth and multiply, shall we say, then people are just going to have to deal with it. I don't know. What's your dream stitching aspiration? Do you think you're going to stay with cross stitch forever? Do you think you're going to move on to other things? Are you already a quadruple threat? You know, can you already do a myriad of things? For me, there's comfort in cross stitch. I can probably do a few other things, but I like that comfort. Let me know what you think. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.